Meeting to order. First up, we'd like to do the pledges, and we'd like Summer Mandel, Communications Director at Texas Real Estate Commission, will lead us in the U.S. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now ask Lizette Smith, a Texas Director with the Texas Realtors, to lead us in the Texas Pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Agenda item number 2 is discussed excused absences. There are nobody absent, so we'll just go to agenda item number 3, and it's opening remarks by the chair. For those that don't know me, my name is Scott Kestner. I have the honor of serving as chairman. I want to welcome, I know we have a lot of visitors. I know the Texas Realtors are having their conference currently, and a lot of them journeyed over to see the commission and meet some people. So if you're a Texas Realtor here for the conference, thank you for attending. We're glad to have you. Good news is you can get up to 4 hours of CE. Yay. The bad news is you must be here for the entire commission meeting to get 4 hours. If the meeting only lasts 2 hours, you will get CE for the 2 hours. I can assure you that will not happen today, okay? So CE hours or not, I think you'll learn something, and we appreciate you being here and being involved. First of all, I want to tell everybody happy Valentine's Day. I don't know of a better place to be on Valentine's Day than to be doing the business of the Texas Real Estate Commission. And, I thank the commissioners and the staff and everybody for all the efforts that they bring to help our agency move forward. But, we have spouses, significant others, and family members that we're away from on special days like today. So it means even more to me that you would give up that time to be here to help this agency. And I certainly appreciate it as a chairman, and I know the staff and the 217,000 licensees that we supervise also appreciate that. I mentioned the Texas Realtor Conference going on. I will tell you, we were engaged. Executive Director Buckholtz and Enforcement Director Mike Malloy, they attended and did an enforcement risk reduction forum, and I heard really good things on that. Myself and Director of Education Jennifer Wheeler were invited to attend a forum on professional development, and it went really well, and it gave the staff an opportunity to meet some people that they've probably talked to on the phone 100 times but never put a face to it. And so it was really neat to be involved with that and get input from the people that we regulate to move forward. I do want to ask you to, commissioners, defend your calendars. There's actually statutory obligations when it comes to excused absences. So look at the meeting dates, put them down. We know life happens, but do whatever you can to defend your calendars and make sure you can be here at all the meetings. Like I said earlier, if you want to make a public comment, please fill out a form, bring it up here, and we will certainly have you make public comments when we get to that agenda item. We do have people in and out that need to be places, so Chairman's prerogative, I might move around on the agenda to make sure we get everything taken care of in a timely manner. If you're on the agenda, there's no need to fill out public comments. But then again, thank the visitors for being here, and thank staff and the commissioners for doing a wonderful job. And that's all I have. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is we're going to have elections, okay? And each position can be nominated. You can nominate yourself. Nominations do not need a second, and if there's more than one nominated, we will have a voice vote. The majority will if somebody gets 5, then they will have that position. We will elect a vice chair and secretary, and I'm going to say this as chairman. These positions were not filled until May of last year, so the current executive committee has had about 8 months. I think they work really well together. Okay, and we will open it up for nominations, but at the same time, I think the ones we have in place We have Commissioner Jan Fight Miller as vice chair and Commissioner Jason Hargraves as secretary, and they work well. But I will open it up for nominations, and I guess even if we leave it the same, we still need the nominations. Okay, so I will open up for nominations.
Mr. Chair, is that wrong? I would like to, can we just move that we would retain Jan Fight Miller as vice president, or vice chair, excuse me, and our secretary is Jason Hargraves.
I think we need separate motions for each one.
All right.
So,
Then I will nominate Jan Fight Miller as vice chair.
Second.
all right, I had a motion made by Commissioner Wilkinson, a second by Commissioner Russell. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstaining? Motion carries. I'd entertain a motion for secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Jason Hargraves.
Motion made by Commissioner Russell, second by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Congratulations, and congratulations to both Jason and Commissioner Miller. Look forward to working, continuing with the executive committee. Okay. Next, we have discussion and appointment to the different committees, and I will tell you who is on, which commissioners are on each committee, and this is not set. At the same time, we do not want more than 3 on any committee as a liaison. Because then if a commissioner wants to log in or the chair wants to log in, then we have the quorum issue. So we try to keep it to 2. Some of them we actually have 3, okay? On the inspector, should I go in order? Okay, I'll go in order. On the enforcement committee, we have Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Hargraves, and Commissioner Lerner. On the budget, we have Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Woodruff, and Commissioner Pena. On the inspector, we have myself and Commissioner Jan Fight Miller. ESAC, we have Commissioner Wilkinson, Commissioner Russell. Broker Responsibility Working Group, we have Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Miller, and Commissioner Lerner. Broker Lawyer Committee, myself. And then the audit is set by vote, and it was Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Pena, and one from TLCB, okay? And then Commissioner Russell will continue with the Research Center. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts of changing, moving, or whatever? If you do, we can certainly...
How many am I on? It was an accident.
Okay. I show you on enforcement, broker responsibility working group, and audit. And I think you took audit because I didn't want to.
I think that's maybe it, but they haven't had one, so okay.
Okay. And if we get into this, I mean, and we meet in May or whatever, and y'all want to do some moving around, that's great. We're the liaisons, you know. We're there to help communicate the working group, advisory committee back to the commission. You're not there not to say anything, yet at the same time, let them move their processes, but yet also be there to kind of let them know what the commission's, where they've been and where they might go. And so a truly liaison, okay? Questions on that? Okay. We'll move to agenda item number 7, Director Reports regarding agency operations and initiatives. And we will start with Executive Director Chelsea Buckholz.
Well, good morning. It's nice to see all 9 of you here. I'll be short. This is, as the chairman mentioned, we've spent a few days at the Texas Realtors Winter Meeting. On Friday, the chair and I visited with the Business Issues Committee on wholesaling. We'll talk a little bit more about that, some today, some tomorrow. And then, of course, we had a few of us there on Saturday. The chair and I will go back tomorrow to do a very brief TREC update. I'm very thankful to be a part of the winter meeting. I think it's just a sign of health between Texas Realtors and our organization. And I'm grateful for the opportunity, really to be with license holders. It's been a long time since we've been able to do that in person. The last time I was at the Texas Realtors Winter Meeting, I had been in this position for 1 month. So it was a little different to go back, feeling like I had some knowledge to share with the group. I also wanted to introduce today Summer Mandel, who has started at the first of this year in the communications director role. She has made great progress towards our communication efforts and will also be a part of our governmental relations team. I'm grateful for her expertise. So far, she has gotten us Facebook verified. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. Makes us much more official. She's promoted this wholesale survey that has over 4,500 responses. She's increased our exposure greatly, and she's got great plans for the future. So she's in her second month and is making a significant difference. So you'll hear from her a little bit later in our staff reports, but I just had to introduce her to you. She's in red shoes over here. I mentioned wholesaling in the survey that we have that has been out for a few weeks now. This is part of our 2022 commission initiatives. And so we're going to give a report on all of those initiatives tomorrow. But just had to highlight the fact that we have had 4,500 responses. About 27% of those have been from wholesalers themselves. Another 50% or so have been from our license holders, sales agents, and brokers, and the remainder are from consumers. So I think that we've reached a broad swath of the world in this, and we have received more than 3,000 open-ended comments that we'll pour through and find some themes throughout. We're also working with the title industry to do a similar survey to that community, and I think they are sitting in a really unique position to provide input into this issue because they're not a party to a transaction, they're observing and facilitating transactions, right? So more to come on that. I will say that that there's been a lot of buzz with wholesalers on this issue. We've watched some YouTube videos and some Instagram posts about kind of leaders in the wholesale community saying, go fill out this survey, talk about how great wholesaling is and how much it's needed. We watched one YouTube video that showed how to fill out our survey, step by step. So it's in the world and people are noticing it. Last week, 3 full days of our week were spent in vendor demonstrations for our RAMP licensing regulatory database, the database that we are working to build. The step right now that we're in is to select a vendor to build that database. So we have 3 vendors who provided us with, I think it was 8, I might have that wrong, but several scenarios through an 8 to 5 process where we asked questions, they answered them, they showed us their product. It was a very stringent and formal process, and I was mostly a listener and an observer. But I am so proud of our staff and how they have engaged in this process across the board, in enforcement and in licensing and education and in IT. Every division, finance, every division has been involved because every division is affected by this database and uses it. So their questions were thoughtful, they paid attention. It was a hard 3 days, very intense. But it makes me hopeful for what is to come. We have viable candidates for that. Arello, the mid-year Arello conference is in April. I believe it's April 8th through 10th. If you are interested in going to that, I think I have interest from 2 commissioners so far. If any others would like to attend, let us know. We can make that happen. We just need to start making plans on that. A few of us from staff will attend. I think I've told you this in an email, but I'm sitting on the governance committee to help hopefully kind of streamline some of the governance processes at Arello. But we will be present and report back to you. But if anyone wants to go to Savannah, Georgia to that conference, you are more than welcome. For the last at least 6 meetings, maybe 7, I have started my report with a COVID update. This time I'm ending my report with a COVID update. We have postponed our return to the office several times. We expect to be back to the office in our full-blown remote work policy implemented starting next Monday. We had Omicron kind of threw us a loop, and while we thought we would come back at the beginning of the year, we postponed that a few times, but I expect that we will be back at the office starting next week. Most people will work from home a few days a week and at the office a few days a week. I think that's a new normal for almost everyone in the world. And I'm excited about how that will look and feel. So we might need to toggle things once we get back and see how things are going. But I'm excited to be moving beyond COVID, from my lips to God's ears. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions or talk through anything you'd like to discuss.
Any questions? Just like to add, Arello has been very beneficial with 2 big issues. We're looking at the wholesaling and the broker responsibility and supervision. There are several states that have already taken steps toward wholesaling, so it gives us an opportunity to kind of see where they're at and where we might go. So it's been really informative, so thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Deputy Executive Director Tony Slagle.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chair, Tony Slagle, Deputy Executive Director. Usually I come up here and talk to you directly about customer service. Before I do that, I just want to provide all of you some updates on a couple of things that have happened since the last Commission meeting. Probably most notably is that we launched the HOA website on December 1st. That website was statutorily required. It provides essentially a portal for HOAs to upload what is called their management certificates, which is their documentation on who's running the show, so to speak, as well as some other things. As of today, we have 2,750 HOAs have posted on the website, and 2,762 management certificates have been uploaded. If you recall, there are 2 deadlines for HOAs to upload their certificates. One is anybody who filed and it's based on when they file it with the county of record. So any HOA that filed their certificates with the county of record prior to the December 1st deadline or launch of the website, they have until June 1st of this year to upload their documents. Anyone who did it after that December 1st deadline has 7 days from the date they filed with the county of record to file those with us. So we'll be seeing an influx of these coming probably in the next couple of months prior to the June 1st deadline. The other thing I wanted to touch on is we submitted our annual sunset report. That is a requirement of the sunset legislation that passed. It's due on January 1st of each year until January of 2023. So we have 1 more to go before we're done reporting that information. I did send it to all of you, but it has complaint information, licensing information, some financial information, and then contact center information, and it's reported quarterly over a year. So that was submitted. We have, as of February 1st, the new inspectors' standards of practice were went into effect, as is the new inspection report form. As a result, we have a pocket edition of the SOPs for inspectors to use. We've updated that, and there's a order form on the website for inspectors to order copies of that we'll mail out. But we also developed a very sort of simplistic but a good online version of that, so people can access it on a smartphone or on their tablet through the website. So that as well. And then finally, before I get into customer service, just wanted to let you know that staff's been working on the strategic plan, which is due this year. We have not received any instructions yet, official instructions, but it's usually always due in June of even numbered years. Staff has been working on looking at that. We'll have a discussion tomorrow at the working group about that as well, based on some of the things that staff has looked into. So I wanted to put that on your plate as well. Any questions before I move on to a very, very brief customer service update? Yes, ma'am.
How many HOAs are there? So how many are still left to report?
I don't know if anybody knows that, which is one of the reasons we have the website. I think anecdotally during the session we heard 26,000. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody does, but that's one of the things I think we're hoping to find out through this website. But yeah, we heard 26,000 from somebody. So yes, sir.
So what happens if they miss the deadline? Is there some?
Well, we don't have regulatory authority over them, so there's not anything the agency can do. There are some things stipulated in the statute, but I'm not sure I'm not sure how those are worked out. There's some initially as it was filed, it had a little bit more heft to it, but I think there was some issues about who would police that. So anyway, yeah, we don't regulate them. We're just a repository for that information. So any other questions about that? Okay, just very briefly, as I do every month, beginning of every month, I sent all of you a customer service report for January on the 1st of February, or roughly around that time. I'm happy to answer any questions about that report, but I just wanted to give you some updated stats. As of Friday, we've received just under 7,000 calls for the month. The hold time was 1 minute and 13 seconds, and we have an abandonment rate of 2.8%. After that email I sent, which talked about staffing issues, I wanted to provide you an update on that as well. Unfortunately, we have lost a person on the contact center, so we're down one based on the numbers that I told you, which was 22. Robert Hood will be posting that for that position in addition to 2 other positions to bring the numbers up to 24, which is the approved number of staff. So we're hoping to get that fully staffed to 24, hopefully in the next month or so, or month or 2, I should say. And then finally, when Robert gets up here, he's going to be giving you he'll be talking about his reports based on some information that we received from the commission as well as the board. Robert and I have been working on updating those to give the data that's on the current reports a little bit more context. So what you'll be seeing is the current reports and the new reports. They're the same data. One of them, as I said, just provides more context to be a little bit more informative to all of you. If you approve those reports, those will supplant the current ones, and those will be what he uses going forward. So he'll go into more detail about that when he gets up here, but I did want to point that out to you as well. So any questions about any of that?
Any questions?
All right.
All right. Thank you. Next is Robert Hood, Director of Customer Relations Division. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Robert Hood, Director of Customer Relations Division. I am pleased to present to you on the status of the division. On page 13 in your meeting materials, you will find the Customer Relations Division report. These reports will reflect the contact center statistics through December of 2021. This past December, all metrics for the division trended in a very positive direction. While the call volume for December was about 2% less than November, the overall hold time decreased to 39 seconds for the entire month. Additional staff were hired in September, trained, and made significant impact to the level of service we were able to provide. In December, we were presented with 15,293 calls with a 39-second hold time. The next page, page 14 of meeting materials, you will find the number of emails that the contact center handled. In December, 4,060 emails were processed, and 98.89% of those emails were responded to within the first business day. The last chart on this page shows the comparison of calls for the board and the commission. It's been a steady 7% of our calls are for the board and 93% of the calls are for the commission. On page 15, please review the results for our customer satisfaction survey. In efforts to increase the number of surveys that we receive on a monthly basis, we remind our customers about their survey in every email and every phone correspondence with them. Most of our customers that choose to complete the survey are contacting us via telephone, and their more than likely a real estate sales agent. Our email rate for December increased to 82% of the customers surveyed, indicating their experience was excellent. 83% of the customers that were surveyed rated their telephone experience as excellent. 96% of the customers surveyed rated their telephone experience as excellent. Their customer service representative as excellent. So this will conclude the December customer service report. And before I discuss our proposed changes to report, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've got one question,
Sure.
and it might be an outlier, I'm not sure. On page 13, on the calls handled by the courtesy callback, it went down to 190, and we've been above, 600, 700, 800, most of them. Was there a reason for the drop in that?
Well, the option for the courtesy callback is not provided to the customer unless they're on hold for about 2 minutes.
Very good.
So if the average hold time is less than 2 minutes, they don't have the option to pick the courtesy
So
call.
0 there would be good then?
That would be
Okay, very
all.
good. All right. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment that I started to applaud when I saw the 35 seconds on there, average hold time. Y'all have done fantastic.
We can still applaud.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Thank you. All right, without any if there's no other questions, I'll go on to our proposed reports. Okay, I would like to propose some changes to the Customer Relations Division reports. And like Tony mentioned, our goal for these new reports is to provide you with some more information about the progress of the contact center and provide you with some insight on where we are in relation to our division goals. I welcome your feedback on any of these reports, and please do not hesitate to let me know if you would like additional information or any changes to this information I presented to you. These reports will reflect our stats through the month of January 2022. So starting on page 17, I will display the hold times day by day for a respective month. This will give you some insight to the highs and lows that we experience throughout the month that dictate our overall hold time for the month. For additional context, I will include the number of representatives taking phone calls in that respective month. Then I will break down the percentage of working days in which we are below our 1 minute target hold time and the percentage of days we are above our 1 minute hold time. You will notice in January, we started the month with a 3 minute hold time. This was the first day of the year, and it was a Monday. So this is typically a busy day for us. Then you will see in the middle of the month, there was a 4 minute hold time. This was the day that we returned to work after the MLK holiday. So we were closed for a day, then the next day we experienced a high call volume. And then the following day after that, we were reduced to about a 1 minute hold time. So we were able to recover fairly quickly. And lastly, at the bottom of this slide, you'll see the comparison of the commission calls and the board calls. Next, on page 18, I will provide to you our monthly results from our customer satisfaction survey, and this will be the same as you currently receive. On page 19, I would like to provide you a snapshot of our numbers over the past 12 months. This report will show you the number of calls presented to the contact center each month and the hold times for respective month. And an indicator of where we are in comparison to our 1 minute target goal. On page 20, I'll provide to you an update on the emails processed over the past 12 months. This will include the number of emails we received and the number of emails we processed within 1 business day. And also included in red the percentage of those emails that we completed within 1 business day. And you'll notice in January, we completed 100% of our emails within 1 business day. And finally, on page 21, I'll propose to you a fiscal year comparison. So this report, you'll be able to see the last 5 fiscal years and the average number of calls presented and the average hold time for each year. And I will also include an indicator of where we are in comparison to our 1 minute hold time goal. This will conclude my proposal for the new division reports. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I'll just make a comment. Love it. Love the reports. I mean, I like the numbers, but the graphs certainly are easy to look at, and especially day by day tracking it, especially when you say, all right, that's a Tuesday, but that was really a Monday. That helps us understand. So, yeah, I like them. Anybody, any other comments?
Yeah, that's good. Excellent.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Jennifer Wheeler, Director of Education and Examination Services. Boy, I'd hate to follow that, I tell you. But I know you can do it.
Kidding. Yeah, no pressure at all. Thanks, Robert. Good morning, Chair Kestner and Commissioners. Jennifer Wheeler, Director of Education and Examinations. First, I'd like to thank the Chair and Texas Realtors for the opportunity to speak at the Winter Conference over the weekend. It was a great opportunity to connect with some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a long time, and also to connect with some new ones. There's always great benefit in the opportunity to collaborate, and I want to say that I really appreciate the positive feedback that we received. Second, for those of you seeking CE credit for attending this meeting, please sign in and out. As Chair Kestner mentioned earlier, when doing so, introduce yourself to our education specialist, Nicholas Samet, who is manning the table for us. Now I'll move on to reports. Like Robert, education is in the process of developing new and more substantive reports for the Commission, and hope to have something new to share with you by our next meeting in May. For now, the first education report before you is the fiscal year-to-date data reflecting total number of qualifying education and provider and course applications received through December of 2021. You'll see we received a slight increase in qualifying course applications in October and November, with a decrease in December, which is typical due to the holidays. While we have several applications outstanding, waiting for additional information from providers, we were able to approve 40 qualifying course applications in December. QE course applications are more complex and often require additional information from providers, particularly those that are offered through distance education, so this accomplishment was something to be recognized. And before I move on to my next report, are there any questions regarding this one? Okay, thank you. Well, hold on. Okay, so I'll move on to the continuing education report. This report reflects fiscal year-to-date data through December of 2021 as well. This is continuing education provider and course applications. Our continuing education provider and course applications continue to increase. We're seeing more new continuing education providers enter the industry, and existing providers continue to renew their approval. So before I move on to a couple of project updates, I'll ask if there are any questions regarding this report. Okay. So there are 2 other items that I'd like to report briefly on to you today. The first is an update regarding our website compliance and administrative audit program. To date, we have completed review of 360 CE provider websites, 9 qualifying provider administrative audits, with 18 administrative audits currently in progress and 11 pending. At tomorrow's workshop, we'll go into more detail about the process and the requirements for administrative audits, and I look forward to your valuable feedback at that time. And lastly, I just want to make you aware of a project that we have been working on that will allow qualifying education providers to post SAE credit directly into our database management system in a manner similar to the CE posting system. We're currently preparing to test the new configuration in the system and hope to be live with this project by the time we meet again in May. And I look forward to providing you with a progress update at that time.
Any questions? Commissioner Russell?
About the number of right-of-way registrations, got any opinion on that? That seems to have really gone down.
The number of right-of-way registrations?
Yeah, well, ERW, isn't that right?
I think Denise can probably speak more. Yes, it's a licensing function. Now, what we are doing in education is we've implemented an education program, or at least the statute has required us to. So we are going to start requiring continuing education and qualifying education for ERW registrants. But I think Denise can probably speak in a more qualified way to what our volume of that is.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
I had a question. If a realtor, a licensed salesman, decided they wanted to go into right-of-way, how many hours would that require?
16.
16 more?
16 hours of qualifying education and then 16 hours to maintain the renewal.
So has TREC put out any information that you might need right-of-way people? And because I think there are lots of realtors that might want to look at that, real estate salesman.
I think, as you know, we've got a communication plan for notifying at least all of our education providers of the opportunity to submit courses for this program. And in doing so, I feel like we'll have an outreach as well to our current ERW registrants, and maybe that can be something that's included in a monthly newsletter that we send to all license holders. But I think that's a great question, and maybe as we implement this, we'll see a larger population. I'm sorry, Vanessa, go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think this is on. I was just going to add that we'll see rules proposed today in response to the legislation that passed related to ERWs. And so once everything is in place and effective, that's when that communication plan will start happening, and we'll start seeing not only the courses, but also just that that's out there, that's what's required, and things like that.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Okay, I've got one question. I love the idea of pre-license being posted by the provider. Normally, they do not send in their pre-license classes till everything's done and they fill out the application and the clock starts.
Right.
So if the provider sends it, it'll be stored under a certain, they'll already have a number assigned to them, so when they do their application, or how will that affect the time frame on the application deadline?
So that is actually going to be accomplished with the database management replacement system. Okay. What we're talking about now, because the key issue has been being able to tie the education to an individual, which requires a license number. So that's why we, at least for now, what we can accomplish in the meantime is to allow our education providers to post that salesperson apprentice education once the license holder is within the first term.
For the renewal. Okay, very
yes,
good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And she did an awesome job at the forum, so y'all should give her a hand. She really did. Director of Licensing, Denise Sample.
Good morning, Chair Kestner and Commissioners. I'm Denise Sample, the Director of Licensing, and I'd like to point your attention to the first report, page 24 of your materials, it looks like from here. That is the applications received and renewal activity, and that's a fiscal year-to-date comparison, so this is as of December. So in the center of the report are the total broker, or at the top of the report, real estate broker and sales agent applications that have been received and how it compares to this point the previous fiscal year. And I do want to point out the real estate inspectors at the center of that report. We're seeing a dip in the number of applications received so far this year compared to last year, but that can be attributed to the spike in applications that we received last year ahead of the inspector requirements changing. So we got a record number of applications in the last fiscal year. So when, pulled up to compare in this point in fiscal year 19, we'd received 174 total applications, and this point in fiscal year 20, 213. So, we're still ahead of where we were when we discount that year that we had the spike in applications. So the next report is the license holder and registrant status. This is the total number of license holders. A lot of numbers there, but if I can point your attention to the very bottom, through December of 2021, we've got 222,000 license holders, and that's across all the license types. The next page is a graphical presentation of this information. And that, if I can go ahead and address Commissioner Russell's question, we are seeing that decline in the ERW license holder count. We don't really know what the cause of that is, but I've begun adding that ERW applications received metric to that first report to kind of track it as we transition into requiring education for that license type, because it will be. We're going to want to track what that does to the license holder counts once an education requirement is in place, because right now the only requirement is an application and the fee and fingerprinting. There's really not much else to an ERW license application at this time. And the last report I'd like to point your attention to is average number of calendar days to process an application. This is a 13-month comparison. So real estate sales agents and brokers are at the top of the report, inspectors are in the center there, and ERW application processing times at the bottom. Our goal for this metric is 14 calendar days. So we're well below the processing time across those license types. And if there are no questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions? One question, Commissioner Russell.
Were you going to ask?
That's not something that I could speak to. I will say your question earlier that you posed to Jen Wheeler, you mentioned a sales agent applying for an ERW registration. However, we kind of had a little side conversation there. I was checking with Mike Malloy, the Director of Enforcement, and the sales agent license allows you to perform the work that an ERW registration allows. So that registration exists for that kind of work for someone who doesn't want to obtain a sales agent license. So I can't really speak to what that will do. It's just speculation that it may not help improve that number with an education requirement. Although once we kind of start, communicating those changes that are coming, we may see, just like with any requirements change, we may see a spike in applications just ahead of the deadline. But we'll track that and just keep reporting and monitoring.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, next up will be Michael Malloy, Director of Enforcement. And after Director of Enforcement gives his report, I'm going to break the agenda, go to public comment, because we had requests for public comment, and I want to move them up. Go ahead, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Kestner, Commissioners, Michael Malloy, Director of Enforcement. If I could direct you to the page 28, that's the case status E1 report for materials. The report shows now basically a regular trend of high application investigations and fitness inquiries. Those have dipped a bit since last year's highs, so I expect that still to be high number, but not as much as it was last year. But staff is staying on top of closing more complaints than there are incoming. Now, if you move to the case aging report on next page, page 29, reflects that 94% of the complaints are less than a year old, and there's no complaints that are over 24 months. For the past year, we've had some turnover in the attorney area. Now we're fully staffed for attorneys, so I'm hoping that the 12 to 18 months will start going down because we'll be able to focus on that as well. If you move to page 30 and 31, the complaint subject matter categories, there's really been no changes from the last time I presented this report. I have plans for this report, and that hopefully with the new database, I can make something more useful and more dynamic for myself and the industry as a whole. But I think a lot of it's going to have to wait until that day happens, unfortunately. Does anyone have any questions about my report?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
See you in a bit.
Before we go with Chief Financial Officer, I'm going to open it up for public comments. And I had one, Ty Williams. And Ty, we're going to limit you to 3 minutes, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for letting me speak today. I want to speak about something very important to myself and others. There's been a lot of talk about mentorship and the requirement of doing a certain amount of transactions being a salesperson. And I believe it would be a very good thing to have for especially new agents that are just getting out of school, just like anything else. You get your license, but let's teach you how to actually do real estate. So maybe having a checkbox, making sure that a broker or a designated supervisor checks off on an offer or listing presentations or listing agreements and things of that nature before they're sent off to a client, I think would be a really good thing. And I believe that really having the involvement in an agent's, I guess, putting together offers and things of that nature, we're going to see a lot less mistakes out there and a lot less issues. And I think a lot of those issues on the broker side are felt on dealing with other brokers. And you talk through those things, which are great because communication's good. But I don't think you're going to see the complaints that really you should be seeing come through because brokers a lot of the time work it out. But I think oversight and things of that nature for mentorship would be a really good thing to push forward on. And I just wanted to show my support for that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comments? All right, thank you.
Appreciate you.
All righty. Okay, next report will be Chief Financial Officer Renata Williams, and I think I bumped you last meeting too, so I'll try to bump somebody else next time, okay?
No problem, sir. Good morning. Good morning, Chair Kestner and Commissioners. Renata Williams, Chief Financial Officer. I'll be presenting the December staff reports for the Financial Services Division. On page 33, you'll find our quarterly budget analysis. This is data through December 31st, and we've collected $4.6 million, which is 31% of our targeted revenue collection, and we are slightly below our target of 33.3%, but I'm fairly confident that we'll make that up in the next quarter. And as you can see with Director Sample's report for licensing, our applications received as a whole has been a little bit less. So new sales applications was 8.6% lower than they were last year, and there was also a dip in the renewals. On page 34 is the quarterly expense analysis. Again, this is data through December 31st. Our expenditures were 4.5 million, which is 27% of our projected targeted expenditures. We're slightly below the target of 33.3%, but it's always having our expenses trend a little lower than our revenue is never a bad thing. All right, going on to the next page, you'll have a visual representation of our revenue. And as you can see, our license fees make up 90% of the revenue. Miscellaneous fees are 4%, education and exam fees coming in at 3% each. All right, the next page gives you a visual representation of our expenses. In here, you can see that our personnel costs make up 80% of our expenses. So 58% were salary and wages, 22% were other personnel costs such as benefits. So that's the 80%, while our other operating expenses make up the remaining 20%. And I have listed for you some comments in case you wanted to know what were some of the variances there. Okay. The next page, please. This report is a year-over-year percentage of change report. Again, just to kind of give you a visual of how we've performed financially over the course of a year. There are several percentages that are high, but everything on this page can be explained as noted by some of the comments at the top. So starting off, as you can see, the licensing revenue collected in the first quarter was less than what was collected during the first quarter of 2021, or FY 2021. Salaries increased by 5.7%, but as you all know, we've also increased staffing positions. We've added additional FTEs, so that's why our expenses would be more in FY 22 than they would be in FY 21. Let's see here. We've had additional contractor support this FY that we didn't have last fiscal year, which caused the cost to increase in our professional fees and services. And as noted, we had an increased office presence this year, which caused us consumables, to be more in the first quarter of this year than they were last year. Also, as noted, travel. Last fiscal year, we had $11 of travel-related expenses for fiscal year 2021. This year, we've surpassed that. We've had the Arello conference. We've had the November quarterly commission meeting. So we've had travel expenses this FY that we did not have last FY during the first quarter. So as I prefaced, there are several percentage changes that seem rather large, but all can be explained, and there's nothing of concern on this page for me. I just wanted to make sure I pointed out those differences to you so that when you saw them. Okay, and then on page 38, please. This just gives you a monthly, a view of our monthly activity and how our revenue collection compares to our expenses. So you can see in September, we had more revenue that we collected than we had expenditures. November, December, our revenue collected and expenditures were kind of, neck and neck. And then you go to December and our revenue was slightly lower than our expenditures. On page 39, we will go to our holding reports. The TREC operating account had one security that matured, and we reinvested those proceeds, and we had an ending balance of $13.2 million. On page 40, the real estate recovery account, it also had one security that matured and was reinvested. We had $457,100 reserved for potential payments within the next 90 days, with $3.5 million as the remaining balance. On page 41, the real estate inspection recovery account. It has a balance of $623,459 and no pending payments. And since the balance was over $600,000 at the end of December, we are required to transfer that excess to the state treasury. And so we have made that transfer of $23,459.56 to the state treasury to their general revenue fund. And we have an ending balance of $600,000 in that account now, sir. This concludes the Financial Services Division reports. If there are no questions, I will be followed by our Government and Strategic Communications Director, Summer Mandel.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams.
I have one. On page 36, you have on your salaries and wages, in the first quarter you spent a little over $2.6 million. Are we outpacing the budget of the 8.7 for the year?
Okay, so no, sir, we're not actually. We've also had some turnover, and so that's going to level out. There are several open positions within finance. We just recently hired the Government and Strategic Communications Director, so all of that is going to level itself out because of the vacant positions that we've had.
So what you're saying is it will settle out?
Yes, sir.
And we will be able to maintain that budget?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Urban and Strategic Communications Director, Summer Mandel. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Hi, Chair Kesner and Commissioners. I am Summer Mandel, the Government and Strategic Communications Director. In your packet, you'll see some data about our social media profiles, our most popular ones, which are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We also have a new Instagram handle. It's at Texas Real Estate Commission, so please follow that. Overall, our reach, or the number of people who see our post and our engagement, or the number of shares, comments, link clicks that we have grown since January 5th. And as Chelsea mentioned in her report, my first day was January 3rd, so still pretty new here. So she also mentioned this, which I'm very excited about. Our Facebook page is verified. So it's that little blue circle with the white check mark in it, which means that we are a legitimate page. That helps our credibility. So generally, I'm pleased with the upward trend that we're seeing in followers and engagement and reach. And I think that'll continue as we hone our communication strategy and also share more content. So also see some information from the wholesaling survey that Chelsea mentioned. Just some initial data. As you may know, just to refresh people's memory, wholesaling is a model where a person enters into a contract to purchase real estate and then sells their contractual interests to a third party prior to closing. So we launched the survey on January 21st, and we are gathering, as Chelsea noted, information from wholesalers, consumers who have purchased from or sold property to wholesalers, or license holders who have represented a party in a wholesaling transaction. And as of Friday, we had about 4,500 responses. I know it's more than that. They've been trickling in. We're leaving that survey open until Friday, February 18th, so feel free to take it if you have not, or share it with people so that we can gather their input. Finally, you'll see some information related to our email communications from the agency. So far, I've done 2 emails for the agency using our email marketing tool, which y'all might have heard of, called Gov Delivery. So one email was to all current license holders and prospective license holders about the wholesaling survey, letting them know that it was open and to take that. And the other email was Inspector Insight, which is an e-newsletter for inspectors, and people can opt into that as a topic area. So if they're interested in an inspector, really anyone can get it. And that list is about 50,000 people. The list for all license holders is about 215,000 added to the applicants. So now I'll move on to the open rates for those messages. And just to give you some background about open rates, MailChimp does a really good job auditing what people send, and it's a good resource to kind of use as a benchmark for what you're doing. So there are 2 different kinds of trends that they shared: an average email open rate across all industries, so all types of email, excuse me, and that average is 21.3%. And then for this specific topic area of government-related emails, which we would fall in, the average open rate is 28.77%. So it's a little bit higher. So keep that in mind. So I'll share with you what our open rates are for those 2 newsletters. So it's 44% for the wholesaling email and 34% for the inspector email. So that's pretty good. I attribute that success to changing the formula for the subject lines, so focusing on the content that's inside of the email versus the topic. So instead of just Inspector Insight, it's had a sample of what you could find in that subject line. Also, our click-through rates, which is the number of unique clicks on links within an email. So if Commissioner Kesner, Chair Kesner, clicked on a link 20 times, he's only counted once as unique. And I know if you're doing that too, and I appreciate that. So those are pretty healthy and close to or above industry average with those same metrics. So for your reference, overall industry average for click-through rates is 2.62% across industries. And then for government-related emails, it's 3.99%. And so for the wholesaler, we had 2%, which is below that industry average. But for the inspector, the average was, or the open rate was 5%. Sorry, the click-through rate. Getting all my rates mixed up here. This concludes my communications report. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Commissioner Pena.
Do you get credit for an email preview as opposed to an actual open?
Yes, I think that counts towards an open rate. It wouldn't necessarily count toward an engagement piece because you wouldn't have clicked on anything, but it depends on how the email marketing tool works. And to be quite honest, I'm still learning about Gov delivery, so I can't say for certain that it's reflected here. But generally, my experience is that yes, that will help bolster your rates. Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner
Miller.
Do you know, you said the wholesaling survey is going to end at a certain time, and that the TLTA title survey people are going to send something out. Do you know when theirs is ending?
I'm not sure yet, so we're actually working with them on the survey. I put together a very similar survey, but obviously more directed toward that audience, but it's quite brief, 4 questions, and has the same kind of open-ended, tell us what your experience is. And that's actually with TLTA right now, and they're reviewing it. Since I am not a subject matter expert in the title industry, I just wanted them to take a look and make sure it made sense and the types of categories that people could identify as were appropriate. So really it's in the works, and I hope to get that sent out in the next couple of weeks. And then I also, that's a question that I have for them of how long, do you think we should keep this open for your audience? Ours, I think, is a bit broader, so leaving it open for as long as we have, I think, has made sense. But does that help? I can definitely keep y'all posted when I have more. So right now the ball's kind of in their court.
Okay, I want to thank you for the survey, and I will add, when there were videos going out, how to fill it out and stuff, I actually went back in and tried to complete it a second time to see if I could, and you couldn't. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a huge safeguard. So I think we're truly getting unique responses. And I certainly encourage the people I know to fill it out. If you know something about wholesaling, if you don't, then don't fill it out, because we really want, accurate information. So thank you for the survey. I think it's awesome. Any other questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, Director of IT, Steve Rapp. What'd you do last week?
What did I do last week? I did something very exciting last week, something I've been looking forward to for, it seems like, months. So thank you for asking. We got to do some demos. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Steve Rapp. I'm the Director of Information Technology. It's a pleasure to be before you today. As you recall, the IT report presented today shows website utilization and the percentage of our applications, renewals, and transactions that occurred online for the month of December. This includes a comparison to the prior fiscal year to date as well. As you can see, web traffic continues to show a slight decline from this time last year, and that online activity for initial applications, renewals, and sponsorship transactions have remained consistent with previous months and the previous fiscal year. And page 2 is a graphical representation of this report. Before I move on to a project update, are there any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
None. I would also like to give a project update on the RAMP project, which is our search for a new regulatory system. As you recall, we are currently in the procurement phase of a regulatory system replacement, and I'm pleased to report that we are currently evaluating the vendor responses and expect to make a recommendation within the next month. Also, as Deputy Director Slagle mentioned, we recently brought the HOA website live. And if the 26,000 number is accurate, we are at about a little over 10% have submitted their management certificates. And that concludes my report.
Any questions? All right. Thank you and congrats on the demos. Okay. Agenda item number 9 will be a report by Executive Committee. The full information can be found on page 49 through 52. December Executive Committee, on December 7th, we talked about returning to the office, launching the HOA website. Always keep a close eye on full-time employment, full-time employees. Talked about the audit committee makeup, got that finalized. Got an initiative update. In November we met and we gave staff a whole list of initiatives that we want to get accomplished over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it took, and got a good update on that. And then also got a quick update on Texas Department of Licensing and Registration are now responsible for residential service companies, and talked about the transfer of those and how they might be looking at a name change. January, we met on the 19th. We talked about the database demos being started up. We talked about updates on the advisory group, website improvements, trying to limit the number of clicks to find the information, and that's an ongoing task. There's a couple other things we'd like to do, and we just need to make sure that we're not infringing on any other previous rules, regulations, or statutes. And then we evaluated the executive director, which is actually an agenda item a little bit further. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Like I say, the full report is on page 49 through 52, and if there's nothing else, we will move to the next agenda item. Agenda item number 10, report by Enforcement Committee. Commissioner Jan Fight Miller.
The Enforcement Committee has met twice since the last commission meeting. First meeting was held on, excuse me, Should I start over?
You're good.
Sorry if I... Whoops, it's still not on. Push harder. Commissioner Lerner voiced concern that she believes the commission is inconsistent in its consideration of criminal history and felt that stricter standards should be imposed. Commissioner Lerner also expressed concern regarding increased crime in general and her desire to be proactive instead of reactive as it relates to issuing licenses to individuals with criminal histories. Staff provided a white paper detailing now how Chapter 53 governs the consideration of issuing of licenses by state agencies. That paper was sent to the Commission by email. Staff noted that the consideration of mitigating factors as required by statute requires each case to be considered individually and is intended to allow for consideration of rehabilitation. This conversation also included a discussion of Rule 541.1, and what offenses were considered directly related. The committee made a recommendation to modify 541.1 to better track the related statutory language under Chapter 53. Those changes are up for proposal today.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we will move to agenda item number 10, Real Estate Broker Lawyer Committee. General Counsel Vanessa Burgess will give this update.
Good morning. Vanessa Burgess, General Counsel for the record. I'm going to provide the update for the Broker Lawyer Committee, which met in January, and it's also had a working group, a farm and ranch working group, which met twice. So the committee considered a public comment referred by the commission concerning the unauthorized practice of law. The committee discussed and generally supported educational efforts about the comment, as well as the possibility of a working group focused on the unauthorized practice of law, which is moving forward. So that discussion will be ongoing. We've got the rule is up for proposal with the rule review, so that's an ongoing conversation and working group as a result of the public comment. And the broker lawyer committee, there was a member who suggested that idea, and so that is moving forward. The Farm and Ranch Working Group, like I said, they met twice. They submitted a proposal and recommendation regarding paragraph 4 and 6 in the Farm and Ranch contract form. The full committee discussed those recommendations and approved them at this time. The Farm and Ranch Working Group is actually going to continue, and alternate member Charles Porter is providing some assistance on this just due to his expertise in that world. They're going to continue to meet and discuss and get input just as it relates to the Farm and Ranch contract as a whole, give that some attention and really get some input from those that utilize it. The committee is also considering some changes to paragraph 7F related to repairs, specifically as it relates to documentation of repairs and any of the applicable warranties that might transfer with those repairs. The committee is also looking into how to better clarify required notices, including the PID and MUD notices, by adding new language related to required notices under 6E. So there's some conversation about checkboxes, and it looks like now they're moving perhaps in the direction of some required notice language to just take it out of the 22, just the box. So they're still looking at that, and you know, as everyone here is aware, and I'm sure everyone in the audience, there were a lot of contract form changes made last year, about a year ago actually. And so the committee right now is really focused on looking at its wish list and looking at a bunch of different changes, farm and ranch, repairs, everything I just mentioned. And there's nothing to move forward at this time. We're just kind of mulling it over, approving some sections. I imagine those will get looked at again. But ultimately, you will see some of this stuff via a formal recommendation from the committee to go for rule proposal and possible adoption in the future. And that's it.
Any questions? Just to follow that up, there's several comments about suggestions, you know, adding a PID or whatever, MUD disclosure to paragraph 22. And anytime you change a contract, it is a huge issue. So they have like a little list over here that when they do it, they will go back to those comments and look at them. So if you send something in, it's not acted on immediately. If you'll listen to the broker lawyer and watch their notes, they put it to the side, so when the time comes, they will do it. So they're not forgetting those ideas. They're just putting them on this list for later. So thank you for covering that.
Yeah, and I'll just note, this is one thing I didn't note. We've been working, Abby and I have been working with Summer on getting a report out post broker lawyer committee, really post all of the committees, but in particular broker lawyer committee, because they receive so many comments, even when there's no rule proposed, that they receive so many comments and they go through each and every single one of them. And so we're working with Summer to get out summaries that address those comments so that folks know, you know, we'll get a follow-up email of like, well, hey, whatever happened with my comment? And our hope is that we can direct them to that article, which will be informative. We'll always direct them to the recording, to the minutes, et cetera, but we're hoping that that summary recap can really be a tool that folks can utilize, those that submitted public comments and those that just want to know what's going on with those contract forms, because they are such an important part of everyday life.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Charles Porter with the Education Standards Advisory Committee. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chair Kisner and the commissioners. I also want to thank so much your support and encouragement of my work and all the work we do on our committees and our wonderful colleagues at the Real Estate Commission. We met on January the 3rd. We're taking seriously the discussion about a potential new course addressing responsibilities between a broker and their sales agents and vice versa. We have met a couple of times already. We have a working group about that. The working group, probably, we never figured it up, but I think we probably have, I would guess, thousands of hours of instruction that we've done with students over the years, if not tens of thousands of hours. One thing we all agreed to was that we were frustrated getting calls from sales agents after our classes with elementary school questions that should have gone to their brokers, I think. And so we really think this is a very important aspect. We had a very vigorous discussion in our working group meeting. We're going to continue to work on that. We're looking at whether we should have a separate course or increase and add some change to the courses we have now in pre-licensing. We'll have a report for you, hopefully next time, on that progress, but we really, really think it's very, very important.
Any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Which part is, I just lost my train of thought. Which part is being discussed in detail to go forward?
We're looking at both ways. We've looked at possibly another course. We all felt generally that we didn't want to add another course with more hours because of a bunch of reasons. But we've gone through, for example, Chuck Jacobus talked about the fact one of our courses talks about how to set up a business and how to do negotiate a commercial lease for, it's just a neophyte sales agent. And that's probably may not be as important as understanding how they should work with their brokers. We think the broker responsibility course is wonderful. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate that and be as efficient as possible. So we're really, we spend a lot of time, we'll continue to, and we appreciate any of your input too.
Well, since you solicited my input.
Okay, I've got my pen.
I think the 30-hour finance class is wonderful. I think it would work so much better as a renewal. I think they would understand it more. I would love to see a 30-hour, half of it broker responsibility, relationship between broker and agent, agent-broker, and Real Estate License Act. I think Chapter 7 does a good job, but I think that could be almost a 30-hour class right there. Put those two together. But anyway, you want my input, so
no, I think it's
that's
great.
Just
in
my
fact,
thoughts.
I've always talked about in my classes, I don't sponsor agents right now because they're going to have a 3-hole notebook of the occupations code and the rules of real estate commission. They get a test every week. That's just, and we have to take it seriously, I think. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay. Chance Brown, Broker Responsibility Working Group. And I was going to move Chance toward the end of the agenda because he had a meeting today and got out really quick. So welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Kestner, Commissioners. Good morning. Your Broker Responsibility Working Group held a virtual meeting on January 12th. We began that meeting with a review of the public comment on our proposed change to the education experience requirements for a broker's license. That public comment fell really into two categories. Number one, people who supported it, and number two, people who are not strong readers. And as a result, we didn't make any changes to that proposal. So, felt good about it. We also continued from my last report, the conversation we were having about property management, and after a lot of discussion, we made the decision that we would make the formal recommendation to this group that be moved to the Education Standards Advisory Committee, because that seems to be the best solution, is to do it through education and not try to do it through a rule change. We also had a conversation about asking the commissioners to take a look at the language in 535.2 related to how a broker has to respond to a member of the public within 2 days, and creating a separate rule that mirrors that language for agents as well, for licensees as well. So there you go. And then we broke into the discussion on supervision of new licensees. And as you heard from Education Standards just now, and from Mr. Williams' public comment, there is a strong feeling that something needs to be changed in how we do that. The question becomes, how do we do that without A, creating barriers to entry, which we all want to avoid, and B, avoiding the problem of the people who follow the rule now are going to be the people who follow the rule later, and the people who don't follow the rule now are going to be the people who still don't follow the rule later. There was significant consensus about the simplest way to go about this is 535.2 currently states that a broker has to supervise an agent in an area where they are not competent for their first transaction of that type. a very elegant solution is to put a number between first and transaction there and say first 3 transactions, first 5 transactions, whatever that looks like. There had been some discussion about having some form of being able to sign off on the transactions that people were doing. Again, we run into a problem where different people have different licenses for different things. Residential versus commercial is the easy one, but also you have a number of people who have licenses just so they can be expert witness or director of enforcement for the Texas Real Estate Commission. Things like that, where they're never actually going to do transactions that need to be signed off on. And so we'd love some guidance from the commission on what you would like to see, what the appetite for change is, and what that looks like. Some guardrails that we can go back and put a proposal together for you.
Okay. Questions? Chance, I'll just say, I know broker responsibility, broker oversight is huge. And I know there's 100 ways to solve it.
Yep.
There's rules or regulations, there's License Act. We want you to bring the perfect solution to us, but we realize it's going to take yourself, broker, lawyer, education standards advisory, enforcement. We appreciate you moving this forward. We appreciate the work the working group does. And I will speak for myself and out of the rest of the commission. We will do what we can do to help that.
Okay.
But I think you identified the barriers clearly. Responsible brokers are going to be responsible. Irresponsible are not going to be responsible. You have the barrier, the entry barrier to deal with. But I think the open discussion, throwing proposals out, examining it, scrubbing it is certainly a start. But I look forward to broker responsibility, ESAC, whoever, bringing something for us to propose, and we will certainly scrub it as much as we can. And if we get public comment and have to send it back and bring it back, we will continue to work with you. There's probably not the perfect answer. I know when we did the point system 10 years ago, we knew it wasn't perfect when we did it, and we're revising it again today. So as a commission, we will certainly work with y'all to try to accomplish that. And we appreciate your work. Any other comments? Commissioner Woodruff.
Yes, thanks, Chance, for working on this, because I would echo Scott's comment here that it's going to be a marathon. But from a practitioner perspective, we've got to clean this up.
Agreed, 100%.
I mean, we all sit around and do all that, and so I just I'm all in as well and trying to help you.
There's a decent chance you might get a phone call from me then.
Yeah, get this down the road, because we spend a lot of it's from a consumer standpoint, this is one thing that probably the biggest thing we could do.
Absolutely. And you see the influx of people coming in and getting licenses. I mean, Thursday I taught class for the Houston Association of Realtors, and I had 8 people who had been licensed in the last 6 months in my class, and 6 of those 8 in the introduction said that they were taking that class because they weren't getting the support from their broker and had to figure out how to do it on their own.
So there you go.
That's a problem.
Anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We know it's a tall wall, but we can scale it. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks. Any other questions? Comments? All right. Report by the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee. New Chairman Sean Emmerich. Everybody's looking out for Lee. Yeah. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Morning, Commissioners. My name is Sean Emmerich. Like I said, I just newly appointed in our January meeting. So we met virtually January 18th. We elected officers, appointed some subcommittee chairs, and then we went over a few things. One, a very lengthy meeting. We discussed the inspector's form. Y'all be considering later in the meeting. I believe it's item 29, where we're talking about inspectors submitting experience so they can move up from professional inspectors or sponsoring inspectors. So we simplified that form and made it where the inspector can attach a data sheet with that form as a cover sheet and make it simpler to submit all those education or experience. There was a few questions about the new SOPs that went in effect February 1st. So far, everything's been pretty smooth with that. I met with one of our state's associations. We had a virtual, just a Q&A Zoom seminar. There's about 150 inspectors on that, and it went really well. So far, we haven't had a whole lot of negative feedback. We've had some questions, clarification and stuff, but I think the rollout of the new report form and the new SOPs has been pretty smooth. And that was pretty much it. We're going to meet in April. So,
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Before we move on, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And so we will go on break at 11:25 and try to be back here by 11:30. The commission meeting back in order at 11:35. We're on agenda item 15 and 16. I am going to do agenda item 16 first. Agenda item 16 is consideration and possible action regarding the proposal for decision in the matter of SOA docket 329212739, TREC versus Dominic Jovan Huerta. First, I'll ask if there's anyone here to represent or speak on behalf of the respondent. Okay. Nobody's here, so I will ask Mike Malloy, Director of Enforcement, to come and give us your discussion, and then we'll have questions.
Thank you.
I'll limit it to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll keep it really brief. So the commission had burden of proof in this matter, and one thing I'll acknowledge is this PFD is written really well. It actually did me a favor today. It makes my job easy. It sets out what Mr. Huerta did together with his father, who coincidentally was revoked by the commission quite some time ago. Excuse me. That said, we didn't meet our burden of proof on all the allegations we're seeking, but I was satisfied that we did meet our burden sufficiently enough to get a recommendation from the judge to administer a $13,000 administrative penalty and revocation of Mr. Huerta's license. This case deals basically with dishonesty, and I think it goes to the intent of a license holder being a fiduciary for their client, and simply put, the important principle that they should put your client's interests before your own. That wasn't the case in this matter. It's tragic that Ms. Escobar had to be the victim and lose $18,000 to a former revoked license holder, Mr. Garcia, and his son, Mr. Huerta. However, adoption of this PFD today, I think, will send a message that the Commission doesn't tolerate this type of behavior or any of its license holders by exercising our consumer protection responsibilities. Staff recommends adoption of this PFD with recommendation that the respondent sales agent be revoked and the administrative penalty of $13,000 be assessed. The attorney that handled the matter, Beverly Ravenberg, is available for detailed questions.
Are there any questions? Here, go ahead, Commissioner Pena.
I have a question. With respect to the father, Mr. Garcia, was there any enforcement action against him, as he has clearly been revoked and obviously participating in real estate transactions?
Beverly can talk further about that. After we revoked, no. I mean, it was difficult to say in this case, I think, what his full role was.
I believe part of the problem was he was involved, but the commission didn't establish or didn't really investigate that part of it. With unlicensed activity, we can assess an administrative penalty, but that's about all the statute permits. Okay. The complainant could also pursue criminal prosecution, because unlicensed activity is criminal prosecution. Could be criminally prosecuted.
Mm-hmm. Based on the documentation that I read, it seemed like he had a principal role in the transaction. And for someone that doesn't have a license in real estate, I would think, he should know better. He's he's skirting the system effectively through his son's license, and that's why I kind of was wondering if there was any enforcement action towards him as somebody that had previously been revoked.
No, we did not pursue anything.
Is unlicensed activity considered a misdemeanor?
Yes. We've attempted over the years to get any prosecutor in the state to prosecute it, and every single time they've denied it. I think it's beyond their expertise in some cases, and with, caseloads that they have, they make their own justifications, so.
This case being closed probably today, is there a way to still go after Mr. Garcia for unlicensed activity? Can that be another case?
Could be established a complaint. I mean, the real issue is, if you're doing the activity, you have to do it for the expectation of compensation. The money was going to his son, so proving that second part would prove difficult. So that's why we took the proactive method of, revoking his son as well. I mean, it's what we felt was the best and appropriate way to handle the matter when it came before us.
If Mr. Garcia ever came back in 2 years or whatever and wanted a license again, this would show up on his file as well?
Yeah, we remember this type of situation.
Perfect.
He's never paid his administrative penalty, as far as I remember, and that's the minimum you even have to get in the door, so to speak. So,
Commissioner Russell.
So clearly the father didn't get the message of having his license removed. All we can really do is keep him from ever getting a license again, because he's totally disregarded not having a license when it was taken away.
if you know a bit of I was here for the history of it. He had a total disregard for the law to begin with. And it's just the type of person he is, and from what I've seen for the history. So,
and let me add to that. Anyone is free to reapply for a license 2 years after the revocation, but this will be part of your information if that happens, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've got one other question, and was anything brought against the broker?
No.
Yes, that was my question.
Okay. All right. We
can talk in more detail if you want about that, our reasoning.
Okay. I'm fine. It was a pretty quick question. We will go into executive session later, and we can ask legal counsel and stuff, and then come back and if you have some more questions for him or whatever. Any other questions at this point? Okay, thank you. Okay, let me figure out where we're at. Okay, we're going back to agenda item 14. Agenda item 15, and that is consideration and possible action regarding the proposal for decision in the matter of socket docket number 329211966, TREC versus Richard Joseph Walton. And I believe General Counsel Vanessa Burgess is going to introduce this. I do believe there is someone here to speak on behalf of Mr. Walton, correct? Okay, give me 1 second and Vanessa will introduce it, then I will bring you up. Okay.
Good morning. As Chair Kessner stated, agenda item 15 is consideration and possible action regarding a rehearing on the proposal for decision in TREC versus Richard Joseph Walton. This case was before the commission at its November meeting, where the commission voted to amend the PFD to revoke Mr. Walton's license and assess a $3,500 administrative penalty. As a prerequisite to appeal at the district court level, Mr. Walton filed a motion for rehearing, which was heard by the Enforcement Committee. The Enforcement Committee voted to grant the rehearing, with the chair of the committee abstaining from voting. This case is before you again for your consideration as a result of that vote. And just to note, there is nothing in the record that has changed and no new evidence at issue.
Okay, just to go over the process, each party will be given 5 minutes. Commission staff will speak first. Is anybody else going to add to yours, Vanessa? Okay. And then who's here on behalf of Mr. Walton? Jason Danowski. Okay. Please come forward. Who's got? I'm sorry. My mistake. Mike, Director of Enforcement, Mike Malloy. Again, limit it to 5 minutes, please.
Yes, sir. So I think, as most people recall, this was originally heard at the commission in November. At that time, the commission determined the ALJ erred in their determination. The commission revoked Mr. Walton's license and administered that administrative penalty. We went through the history, so just wanted to highlight some facts that should be relevant in this matter. In August 2020, Mr. Walton pled guilty to 6 felony drug offenses. He failed to notify the commission of these violations until his renewal in December 2020. Respondents attempted to make everyone believe that these 6 felonies occurred kind of the same day, or somehow it wasn't a big deal because it dealt with someone he thought is a friend. Regardless of these excuses, he was still breaking the law, and as the facts show, he committed this first felony on October 16, 2018, his second on October 22nd, 2018, his third and fourth felonies on Halloween of 2018, and his fifth and sixth one on January 30th of 2019. He pled guilty to all these offenses in August of 2020, and he's set to be on community supervision until 2026. Mr. Walton initially filed for a sales agent license on April 8th, 2018. He was granted his license in November 29th, 2018. I think this fact should be at least important to show his lack of respect for the industry he wants to continue to be a part of, and he was committing felonies during his initial application period into his first year of licensure. At the hearing, the ALJ determined the commission met its burden. He pled guilty to 6 felony offenses. However, she disagreed with our recommendation that it warranted revocation. I think it's important to know that this is 6 violations of the License Act. We talk about Chapter 53 a lot, but I know no one during my tenure at this agency, for me, myself, that's a license holder has been allowed to maintain their license with that many violations of 1101-652A1, which states the commission can suspend or revoke a license holder that pleads guilty to a felony offense. Setting such a precedent would be a blow to licensing standards and call into question the number of felonies a person can commit before moving to revoke their license. Staff again recommends that the commission basically put forward what we did at the November commission and uphold that decision that was made by your group in November. I'll stand by for any questions.
Any questions for Director of Enforcement? All right, thank you. Now please come up. And I will apologize. Vanessa introduced the case, and so I should have went to Malloy. Okay. If you would state your name, and then again, please keep it to 5 minutes.
Jason Danowski.
Thank you, Jason.
On behalf of Mr. Walton. I'll be brief. I'm not going to just read my motion for rehearing to y'all, but I'll sum up the principal elements of our argument, which is that we're asking y'all to issue an order to affirm the ALJ's decision, at least with regards to Mr. Walton's license, because the ALJ did properly consider the factors set forth in Chapter 53 of the Texas Occupations Code. And furthermore, not only did the judge consider those factors, but she actually considered those factors in the same manner as set forth by the commission in its final order. And this is illustrated in my chart on page 3 and 4 of the motion. And so the commission noted that the criminal offenses were serious in nature, and the ALJ also in her analysis repeatedly noted that she also considered these felonies to be very serious. Likewise, the commission noted that he committed these offenses when he was 31. The ALJ also... I apologize. The ALJ also considered Mr. Walton's age at the time, and she noted specifically that because of his age, that the offenses could not be considered a mere youthful indiscretion in her consideration of that factor. And finally, the commission noted in the final order that he committed these offenses just under 3 years ago. The ALJ noted that these crimes were committed only some time ago, only 2 to 8 months ago, 2 years and 8 months ago. And so the ALJ considered all these factors in the same manner that the commission did. She did weigh the factors differently, but merely weighing the factors differently does not give rise to a situation in which the commission should overturn or has the authority to overturn the ALJ's decision. She properly considered all the factors set forth, and she reached a different outcome. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have regarding the motion or regarding the facts of the matter.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Pena.
is it possible to hear from the respondent himself with respect to why he feels we should affirm the PFD as written?
I'm sure that, yes,
Can we hear from the respondent himself?
that's strictly up to him and his counsel.
Chair, Board, I'm here again, Rick Walton. I'm truly fighting for what I believe in. I love being a realtor. I made a huge mistake. I'm trying to move past this in my life as well. I employ people at my business. Mr. Malloy noted before, because I own a business, maybe my real estate license isn't as important to me. I completely disagree with that. It's very important to me, and I'm just simply fighting for what I believe in. I've learned from my experiences. I understand the depth of those serious consequences of the felonies. I'm doing everything the state of Texas has asked me to do. I've provided dialogue from clients and people that I work with to try to give insight to who I am and my character. And I'm just trying to move past and grow from this experience. The state of Texas has me on probation for a certain amount of time. I'm just asking for a reconsideration to let me have my license. I'm not asking for a slap on the hand. I'm asking just to reconsider so I can be a license holder. I don't consider myself a detriment to society based on the character I try to put out there and the character that I've been bestowed upon you through the referrals and the people I've put forth there. So again, I don't have much to say because I can't say anything else other than I'm trying to come with my hat in hand that I've learned and grown from these experiences. I have a fiance, she has a 10-year-old. I have more on the line than just my real estate license. But I am truly here because I'm fighting what I believe in, and I am not a person that I feel is going to cause harm by still holding a real estate license at the end of the day.
Okay. Any questions? I want to thank you for coming and talking to us. I understand your position. I understand, TREC made a decision, SOL made a decision, TREC made a decision, went to enforcement, it's an appeal. As commissioner of the Texas Real Estate Commission, our number one job is to protect the public. And do I think a 31-year-old should know better? Yes, just like the factor said. Do I think it's serious? Yes. But as a commissioner, my job is to protect the public. And we can't look back into the case. We can't look at should it have been one offense or whatever. We just have to look at what we have. And that's where it bears on me that this happened during the licensing. It happened after you got a license. And as a commissioner, I cannot agree for a license when there's 6 felonies. Now, if the district court, you appeal this, you go to district court, if they want to, that is certainly their prerogative. But as a sitting commissioner, I cannot, Not and look at the 217,000 licensees that we supervise and say it was a mistake. It might have been a mistake. I have no doubt that you have regret. But as a governing regulatory board, I cannot do anything but ask that the PFD be amended like we did earlier. And I'm being brutally honest with you, but as a commissioner, I think that is our responsibility to protect the public, and I don't know with what information we have, we can do that. Other questions, other comments? We'll go into executive session. We'll check with legal questions. Okay. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay. Agenda item number 17. We will go into executive session to discuss pending litigation, obtain legal advice of legal counsel on agenda items pursuant to the Texas Government Code 551.071 and personnel matters relating to the performance review of the executive director pursuant to the Texas Government Code 551.074. And we are going into executive session at 11:56. I would like to think we'd be finished in 45 minutes, but I'm going to say an hour. We will be back here at 1 o'clock. Back into order at 1:15 p.m. We will go back to agenda item number 15, and that was consideration and possible discussion regarding rehearing and proposal for decision in the matter of the SOA docket 329211966, TREC versus Richard Joseph Walton. I will ask the commissioners, do y'all have, before we start deliberations, do you have any specific questions for either Mr. Walton's representative or staff representative? Okay, I will open up for discussion, deliberation, thoughts.
And you want those thoughts before a motion's made, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. My thought.
Oh.
No?
You technically want it once you've got a motion on.
Okay.
I mean,
Any questions for either party? No questions? All right, I have a motion.
You want me to do it?
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna read the motion entirely. Says, I believe Mr. Walton's license should be revoked. Mr. Walton should be assessed an administrative penalty of $3,500. So I move the commission modify the findings of fact and the conclusions of law as follows. The commission strikes through finding of fact number 27 is listed in the proposal for decision and replaces it with the following. 27, Mr. Walton has not overcome the evidence that he lacks the requisite honesty and trustworthiness and the integrity to hold a real estate license at this time. The commission strikes commission of law number 7 is listed in the proposal for decision and replaces it with the following. Number 7, Mr. Walton may pose a continued threat to public safety. The commission strikes conclusion of law number 9 is listed in the proposal for decision and replaces it with the following. For purposes of determining his eligibility and fitness to hold a license, the commission may treat Mr. Walton's 6 orders of deferred adjudications as 6 convictions. Texas Occupation Code Section 53.021D, 53.022, and 53.023A. The commission strike conclusion of law number 10 is listed in the proposal for decision and replaces it with the following. Respondent has failed to establish that he is fit to hold a real estate sales license act, sales agent license. Texas Occupation Code 53.022 to 023, Section 22 is Texas Administrator Code, Section 541.1A through D. Mr. Walton's license should be revoked pursuant to the Texas Occupation Code, Section 1101.354, 2 and 1101.652A1, Texas Occupation Code, Section 53021D, 53022, and 53023A, and Section 22 of the Texas Occupation Code, Section 541.1A, 11, and 14. The Commission strikes conclusion of law. Number 11 is listed for the proposal of decision, replaces it with the following. Respondent failed to provide the Commission additional information requested by the Commission in reasonable time. Texas Occupation Code 11.01.652A4. The Commission strikes conclusion of law. Number 12 is listed in the proposal for decision, replaces it with the following. The Commission has demonstrated its authority to impose an administrative penalty of $3,500 against Mr. Walton for failure to notify the Commission of 6 guilty pleas within 30 days of entering the pleas, and for failure to timely respond to the Commissioner's request for information with penalties represent the minimum penalties established by the Commission for these offenses. Texas Occupation Code 11.01.652A4, 1101.652A7, and 1101.702B. Section 22, Texas Code 535.191. The revised sanctions are reasonable and fall within the Commission's schedule of administrative penalties found in 535.191. Additionally, the ALJ's recommended sanction is not consistent with other sanctions imposed in cases with similar facts and is too lenient to be effective. So moved.
A second.
We have a motion made by Chair Kestner, second Commissioner Miller. Open for discussion.
I'm going to speak as to what I found out in the research that I did after the second, I think, no, it was the first Enforcement Committee meeting. I did not know, because I haven't had a lot of criminal problems in my life, thank goodness, but I had to find out exactly what deferred adjudication is. Deferred adjudication is a conviction of a felony. In Texas, it's a special kind of probation that gives you the opportunity to keep your conviction off your criminal record. Only a judge can probate your sentence to deferred adjudication. If you were charged with a felony, deferred adjudication can keep you out of jail or prison. It does not mention licensing, so that is our job here. And I wrote something out in my other studies of this. I am well aware that marijuana is now legal in 37 states. That's not been verified by me personally, but it is illegal still in Texas. Mr. Walton knew the risk in starting this business that he had in Texas. In real estate, we can be tempted to be dishonest every day. I do not want someone selling real estate who thinks he is above the law, as he will be dealing with a consumer's biggest and most cherished investment.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Woodruff.
Yes, I would just like to say that in support of the motion, that, we just, the requisite honesty and integrity is not there, and 6 felony convictions, speaks to that. And for those reasons, I would support the motion as read, and that needs to be a message, out there, I think, and that we're here to protect consumers. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think this commission have to live by certain standards. So we've all gone through, I've been through adolescence myself and learned a lot, but it's certain standards that you have to maintain. And, we represent a great commission and great people that work and get licenses and up for renewal. So I think the most important thing we got to think about here is the integrity as we make our decision.
Other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Can I poll the commissioners or raise hands, which would be raise hands? All in favor? I've got Commissioner Pena, Wilkinson, Williams, Woodruff, Russell, Miller, myself, opposed. Got Commissioner Lerner and Commissioner Hargraves. Motion carries. Thank y'all. We will go to agenda item number 16, and that is in consideration of possible action regarding proposal for decision in the matter of SOA docket number 329212739 REC TREC versus Dominic Havan Huerta, Director. All right, and so do I have any discussion, deliberation, questions for either enforcement and or the representative if they're here? The representative is not here. Any questions for enforcement? Would entertain a motion. Have a motion by Commissioner Lerner to adopt the PFD as written. I have a second by Commissioner Russell. Any discussion? Commissioner Pena?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add a few comments with respect to what I read in the PFD. And this is a classic example of what this commission is charged to do in protecting the public. I believe that Mr. Huerta and his father, Mr. Garcia, were predatory in this instance. The fact that he required a fee to be paid up front to be earned immediately, I think conflicts himself out and incentivizes himself not to actually close a transaction and earn those fees. And so I was deeply disturbed with this type of behavior on two fronts. One is that his father had been revoked for a similar situation in the past, and he has, based on what was written in the PFD, appears to be actively participating in real estate as an agent. It appeared to me, and so the fact that his father had been revoked and actually practicing as an agent, showing houses, collecting fees, to me that's someone that's actively, and I would have hoped to seen a more active pursuit of recourse against this gentleman for operating that way, even though he has a revoked license. And so that's just a comment for our enforcement to maybe perhaps in similar situations where somebody has been revoked, they should really not be doing this type of business. It appears that he commissioned his son so that he could continue doing the very thing for which he was revoked for. And so that is my stance. Secondly, with respect to broker and responsibility for their agents, there seems to be a disconnect with how much responsibility a broker would have over their agents. And I would suspect that if we were to query his broker, he'd say, I had no idea that this was happening, right? And so at some point, we need to give some further consideration with respect to what is a broker's responsibility to their agents and ensuring that they're not, doing this type of behavior where, this is actually predatory behavior of someone that is disadvantaged not only in language but in the transaction itself of real estate. And so I'm very, very bothered by this behavior, and hopefully, and I applaud the enforcement for handling the way they did, but this was a very, very easy case for me because of the type of behavior that was involved in. And the commission, that's what we're here for, is to protect the public.
I totally agree. Any other comments? I'd just like to add, I think, and we said earlier, this PFD was very well written, but in it there were flags about broker responsibility, with the client paying the agent direct and not a trust fund or not an escrow agent, stuff like this. I mean, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this PFD as we move forward with broker responsibility and broker oversight. And it's good to know that this will be part of the permanent record as far as, when they come back in 2 years and want a license or whatever. The PFD was so well written. So thank you for your comment. Other comments? Commissioner Lerner?
I just completely agree with Commissioner Pena. This is appalling to me. I can't believe people can sleep at night by treating others that way, and we have to protect the consumer. And going forward, we really need to make sure we figure out good rules for broker responsibility, because to me, there's probably no way the broker didn't know what was going on, because this probably isn't the first time this has happened with the same people. So we have got to tighten it up for brokers.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a
I just want to say this is a great template for enforcement, looking at going forward, how we would like to see these things proceed, because we want to have the standards, as Commissioner Williams was talking about. We need to make sure everybody recognizes there's a standard of practice and responsibility to the consumer. So thank you.
And I think this is a great opportunity for Summer to take this in communications and show a great example of what broker oversight is not. Yeah, okay. All right, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to go to agenda item number 18. General Counsel Abby Lee will present Recovery Fund, and that's on page 159, 157 of the material.
Good afternoon, Abby Lee, Deputy General Counsel for the record. Agenda item 18 is discussion and possible action to authorize settlement of recovery fund or take other action on RF 21009, Justin Nguyen versus Clayton Cooper and Agave Properties LLC.
Chairman Kessler, I move to authorize settlement payment of $24,215.24 plus 5% post-judgment interest on the eligible amount awarded in the judgment.
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Pena. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 19, rules for possible adoption. General Counsel Vanessa Burgess. This is found on page 158, 159 of your material.
Good afternoon. Vanessa Burgess, General Counsel for the record. Agenda item number 19 is discussion and possible action to adopt.
The mic's not working.
It wasn't on. So agenda item 19, discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 531.18 consumer information. The amendments to 531.18 were published in the November 26th issue of the Texas Register. And the amendment to 531.18 and the form adopted by reference, which is the Consumer Protection Notice, is necessary to implement statutory changes enacted by HB 1560, which relates to the transfer of residential service companies to the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. The amendment to the Consumer Protection Notice just removes a reference to home warranty companies as being regulated by TREC because they no longer are. No comments were received on the amendments as published, and TREC will make sure that the transition in terms of the link to the Consumer Protection Notice goes smoothly so that the right one is available. So the staff recommendation on this would be to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC 531.18 consumer information and the form adopted by reference as published to the register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption. Consumer Notice 1-4, the revised form adopted by reference is will be adopted for voluntary use until April 1st, 2022, at which time its use will become mandatory, and that will just allow for that transition for anyone who's got those forms elsewhere.
Any questions? Entertain a motion?
Get it on. I would move that we receive and accept staff's recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Wilkinson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Woodruff. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 20.
Agenda item number 20 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 22 TAC 535.56, education and experience requirements for a broker's license. The amendments to 535.56 were published in the November 26th issue of the Texas Register. As a reminder, the amendments to 535.56 and the forms adopted by reference incorporate a new point system that is intended to be easier to understand. This simplified point system does not increase requirements to obtain a broker's license and is really just intended to further streamline the broker license application process. The amendments also remove, in addition to creating that new point system, they also removed some low point value categories of exclusive right to sell listings, buyer and tenant representation agreements and listings, but increased the opportunity for agents to count brokerage team management and delegated supervisor or delegated supervision by eliminating the previous maximum amount of points that could be counted under that category. The commission received 4 comments related to the changes, which Mr. Bolton addressed earlier, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. They were all reviewed by the Broker Responsibility Working Group in an open meeting. 2 comments generally expressed support for the changes. Another comment expressed concern related to what the commenter viewed as a reduction in requirements relating to the mandate that transactions under subsection C take place in at least 4 of the 5 preceding years. However, the amendments did not change the number of transactions required and are not a reduction in the experience requirements to obtain a broker's license. The final comment received expressed concern related to someone like the commenter who works in compliance and training, who only completes 1 transaction, or that he would struggle to complete 1 transaction per year in the 5 years preceding the application date because he is someone who oversees transactions. And actually what this rule did was it expanded the experience points one can earn while supervising. It took away that cap. So the Broker Responsibility Working Group did not make any changes and just noted that actually it's an expansion for someone like the commenter in that position. No changes were made in response to the submitted comments, and so the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit for adoption the amendments to 22 TAC 535.56, education and experience requirements for a broker license as published to the register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Have a motion by Commissioner second. Commissioner Hartgraves. Any discussion? I'll just say this point system started probably 12 years ago, and it's going to continue to be tweaked as the industry changes and different things. So good work on their behalf. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 21, presented by General Counsel Abby Lee. And it is not as long as it appears, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good.
You're going to see
It's
me
like
for a
9
while.
pages.
Yeah. Good afternoon again. Abby Lee, Deputy General Counsel for the record. The next several set of agenda items are part of the Commission's quadrennial rule review. For the most part, these changes are minor, really non-substantive in nature, terminology changes, cleanup things. Where we feel like there might benefit from some clarification, we've tried to go through that in the summary that's in your fly sheets, but it does look like a lot, so I will go through these. So agenda item 21 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC 531. In the interest of time, the specific sections being amended are listed in the agenda and included in your materials. The proposed amendments to Chapter 531 are made as a result of the Commission's quadrennial rule review. The proposed repeal and renumbering of 531.1, 531.2, and 531.3, so it they look like quite a bit more changes than they are, but it was essentially a renumbering to make room for a new definition section for ease of reading. The proposed changes also update terminology for consistency throughout the chapter. Importantly, the proposed amendments to both 531.18, consumer information, and 531.20, information about brokerage services, are not intended to change who must comply with these rules, meaning active real estate brokers and sales agents, but merely to use more consistent and concise language. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 531 as published, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Pena, second by Commissioner Miller. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Agenda item number 22.
Agenda item 22 is discussion and possible action to proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 533. Again, in the interest of time, the specific sections being amended are listed in your agenda, including in your materials. The proposed amendments to Chapter 533 are made as a result, again, of the Commission's quadrennial rule review. The proposed changes update terminology for consistency throughout the chapter. In terms of changes of note, the language interpreters and translators is added to the title of 533.5 transcript cost to better reflect the content of that section, and the language is removed from subsection B of that section because it was inconsistent with applicable law. Subsection F of 533.7, final decisions and orders, is amended to more closely align with applicable statute. And then finally, subsection D of 533.8, motions for rehearing, is amended to increase transparency regarding the motion for rehearing process. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 533 as published, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Move the commission approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Pena. Commissioner Wilkinson, my mistake. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Agenda item number 23.
Me again. 23 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 534. Again, the specific sections being amended are in the agenda and listed in your materials. The proposed amendments to Chapter 534 are made as a result of the Commission's quadrennial rule review. The proposed repeal and then renumbering of 534.1 is to make room for a new definition section for ease of reading. The proposed amendments also update terminology for consistency throughout the chapter. Additionally, 534.4, historically underutilized businesses program, and 534.5, bid opening and tabulation, are amended to correct references to applicable regulations. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 534 as published, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Motion made by Commissioner Pena, second by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Agenda item number 24.
Agenda item 24. This is actually not part of quadrennial rule review. This is part of the statutory changes required related to ERWs that you heard about earlier. So those are these proposed rules. Agenda item 24 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535. The specific sections being amended are listed in the agenda and included in your materials. I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail because it is a new program. Proposed amendments to Chapter 535 implement statutory changes enacted by the 87th Legislature in House Bill 2730 in Sections 535.61, 63, 65, 66, 71, 73, and 75. Proposed amendments add the term easement or right-of-way to conform to statutory changes that require completion of qualifying and continuing education courses to obtain or maintain a certificate of registration. The proposed amendments to 535.61 allow an accredited college or university, as well as United States Armed Forces Institute, to submit easement or right-of-way qualifying courses for approval for credit without becoming approved providers, similar to the exceptions that currently exist for both real estate and inspector qualifying courses. The proposed changes also clarify that calculation of the exam passage rate only includes license categories for which the provider offers courses and an examination is required. The proposed amendments to 535.66 add a new subsection and make other conforming changes to address credit for easement or right-of-way courses offered by an accredited college or university, consistent with the proposed changes we just mentioned in 535.61, and current rules related to real estate and inspection qualifying courses. New Rule 535.68 mirrors the content requirements for the easement or right-of-way course qualifying course as required by House Bill 2730 and adopts a course approval form by reference that outlines the units required to be addressed in each course topic. The proposed amendments to 535.400 add specific requirements for the issuance of a probationary certificate as required by House Bill 2730. For consistency in application, the proposed language mirrors rules language found in 535.54 applicable to other license holders. Because House Bill 2730 requires certificate holders seeking to renew to successfully complete continuing education, the proposed amendments to 535.403 clarify that a certificate holder who fails to timely renew, rather than simply failing to timely pay the renewal fee, must apply for and receive a new registration. These proposed changes also modify the section that clarifies what happens if a registration expires on a Saturday, Sunday, or other day the Commission is not open for business, to be consistent with rule language applicable to other license holders. Lastly, new 535.406 is proposed to implement the continuing education requirements in House Bill 2730. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535 as published, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Motion made by Commissioner Lerner, second by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Almost. Agenda item 25.
Agenda item 25 is discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 541 as follows: 22 TAC 541.1 Criminal History Guidelines and 22 TAC 541.2 Criminal History Evaluation Letters. The proposed amendments to 541 are again made as a result of the Court General Rule Review. The proposed changes define Texas Real Estate Commission for ease of reading and consistency, and subsection D of 541.1 is amended to better reflect the applicable statutory requirements found in 53.023 Occupations Code. That's part of the recommendations coming from Enforcement Committee. Additionally, the title of 541.2, Criminal History Evaluation Letters, is amended to add determination of fitness to reflect the terminology used in 1101.353 of the Occupations Code. The staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the proposed amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 541 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Any questions? Motion made by Commissioner Miller, second Commissioner Russell. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Agenda item 26.
Agenda item 26 is discussion and possible action to propose the review of 22 TAC Chapter 537 Professional Agreements and Standard Contracts and 22 TAC Chapter 543 Rules Relating to the Provisions of the Texas Timeshare Act. Pursuant to 2001.039 of the Government Code and the FY 2022 Rule Review Plan, the Commission rules found within these chapters will be reviewed and considered for readoption, revision, or repeal. The review will include whether the reasons for initially adopting these rules continue to exist, and the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit the review of 22 TAC Chapters 537 and 543 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pena, second by Commissioner Wilkinson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You abstaining, motion carries. Okay, that finishes your presentation. Would you like to go ahead and do 28 while you're there?
That's
Is
perfect.
that okay?
That's perfect.
And if you ever need a job reading a car ad, you know, you would be really good at
Go
it.
faster, yeah.
You really would.
Got it. Agenda item 28 is discussion and possible action regarding the Commission's handgun policy. The handgun policy is being updated to reflect statutory changes made by the 87th Legislature in House Bill 1927. There is no real substantive change here. The bill simply rearranged the requirements in the statute, making the citation in the policy no longer accurate. So the staff recommendation is just to approve the handgun policy as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Lerner. Second by Commissioner Russell. Discussion?
Quick comment. So when we talk about license to carry a handgun under Chapter 411, Chapter 411 is a very long chapter, but specifically when it deals with the handgun, I think we're talking about subchapter H, which is a license to carry. Maybe we could add that in there in the policy, as opposed to the entire Chapter 411. It's just...
So amend it with 411 subsection H?
The license to carry provision.
And it does have, under subsection H, Chapter 411, right before it, if that's what you're referring to.
I was talking about it, the first paragraph, any person.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. We can add that there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very broad. Chapter 411 is very broad.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to throw another curve and go ahead and have Denise Sample come up and do agenda item 28. Is that correct? 29, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Chair Kestner and Commissioners. Agenda item 29 is discussion and possible action to approve changes to TREC form REI 1-5 inspection log. The proposed changes to the inspection log form are intended to clarify that the form itself is not required for submitting proof of inspections, while also indicating what information is necessary for processing should the form be utilized as a cover sheet or template instead. The changes also remove outdated references to partial inspections and instructor requirements. These changes are recommended by the Inspector Committee. The staff recommendation is to approve changes to the form as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Pena.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Russell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. We will now go back to agenda item number 27. Discussion and possible action regarding annual performance review and salary of TREC Executive Director Chelsea Buckholtz. I will open it up for discussion. I will start it if it's okay. We do an evaluation annually on the executive director. An evaluation is sent to the 9 commissioners and then the board members. I will tell you, we had really good reviews. It's a point system. It's not only a point system, but they also ask for comments. And I mean, unofficially, I'm gonna say probably 7 out of 10 had, comments, not only just scoring from 1 to 5, but actual comments. Chelsea did something different last year for that review, and also this year, it was sent to staff. And so we not only see what the volunteers have to say, we also see what staff has to say. Chelsea met with the executive board of the commission 2 weeks ago. Prior to meeting with her, we gave her a copy of the evaluations so she could see the input. Chelsea has been very aggressive in engaging the staff to give them the tools and the freedom to work, and I think that was evident with their reviews and also the commission's. She started in January of 20. I will tell you that nothing has been normal. We're working at home, we're coming back. We're working at home, we're coming back. We're coming back, we're working at home. and she has balanced a lot of it. And I will open up for other commissioners to give their comments. But Friday, Saturday, whatever day it was, we were at the Texas Realtor Conference meetings, winter meetings, business meetings, and they reached out to TREC on 3 different occasions to come and talk to their task force on business issues about wholesaling, come talk to professional development about the education standards and everything to get a license, to renewal, to CE and also GRI, and then also to do a presentation at risk reduction. The bridge between TREC and the Texas Realtors is a very important bridge because we have about 217,000 licensees. 11,000 of those are corporate brokers, so they're not bodies, they're just licenses, and there's about 34,000 inactive. So when it's all said and done, probably close to 82% of our licensees are members of that association. And when we have a connection with that association, it helps us better run this agency. And there's one person responsible for that, and that is Chelsea. Putting the team together, to reaching out and be available. And I will tell you, the people that was enforcement, Michael Malloy, Denise Sample, Tony Slagle, they were spot on. They really shined and made not only the agency look great, but also made Chelsea look great. And I think that's ultimately the way you evaluate a leader is how good their staff is and how they empower the staff. And I think she's done a wonderful job. We talked about it earlier. You know, there's that book, Good to Great. You have the bus, you have all the seats, you got to put them in the right seat, and she's done just an outstanding job. And so that's my evaluation. I'll open it up for other commissioners.
Well, I tell you, you're right. It has been pretty interesting couple of years since you started. But one of the things I've noticed, because I was here during the transition from the past executive director to you, is just the fact that you brought good people in around you. Because if you don't have good people, you have to do all the work. So one of the things I've noticed just in watching you and how you maneuver, you always pay special attention to your staff, and we really appreciate that.
Commissioner Woodruff.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that from a practitioner broker standpoint, our interaction with this agency over the last 2 to 3 years has been notably improved in terms of communication, turnaround times, which go directly back to the leadership and the staff leadership you've put in place. So I think that's been a great service to the industry, and I think that's also translated into higher levels of service to the public as we interact with them as well. So just wanted to thank you for that.
Chelsea, I would concur with everything that's been said. I think we've come a long way in a short amount of time. So, and that's definitely a credit to your leadership. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
I sure am glad I got to be in on your interview the first time and the second time. You've come a long way. We knew you were a bright star, but you've come a long way. And for this group, all she said she knew about real estate was that she was in process of buying a new house. That's it. And look at her now.
Okay, Commissioner Wilkinson.
I would join Commissioner Miller on the interview process. Of course, knowing TJ, Commissioner, that was here, and he had so much good to say about you because he had worked with you in agencies before and in the governor's office. And what I see that you've brought is not only you've met challenges, but you have brought such talent in so many areas that we needed, and the agency knowledge that you have, and then bringing on staff that had the real estate knowledge. I think that's a real a constant, and it gave some real continuity to the agency that we needed, and you've done a superb job. I gave you high marks. I think everybody did, so that's a real compliment to you and the staff. I loved what they had to say, so thank you for all you do.
Commissioner Russell.
Well, for being a new person with the pandemic that we have been through, and yet to the public and how you've addressed the public has been as though everything were perfectly normal. And we know that it hasn't been. So to handle that turmoil in our world and yet provide the service, it's amazing.
Okay, in executive, Commissioner
I just want to add thank you
Peña.
for the level of professionalism of the entire commission is really outstanding. You've managed to assemble a great team of people to help you run this organization in a fantastic way, and I'm very, very pleased to observe you and your team at work in everything that you do. So thank you for your hard work and your team as well.
As a commission, our job is to protect the consumer, and we need an executive director that will take that mission seriously. And during the executive, I summed up your evaluation with just a few words. I said Vanessa Burgess, Abby Lee, Renata, Summer, Michael Malloy, and the people that are in the director division now, the Denises, the Jennifers, the Tonys, the Roberts, I'm probably forgetting somebody. That right there is your legacy, and so I think that's important. So I would entertain, you may have a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I will, if it's anything negative, I would say is Jim Collins' book is named Good to Great. We're not great, but we are very good, and we are very good because of you. Continue to put good people around you. I think that we made a great choice to put you in that seat. But I will move that the commission to approve Executive Director Chelsea Buckhoff. That's it, Buckhouse? Buckhouse. A 4% salary increase starting March 1st.
I have a motion by Commissioner Williams. Second. Second by Commissioner Woodruff and Commissioner Lerner. So we had a 1.5 second and second. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't hear any opposed. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. All right. Almost. Chelsea, would you like to say anything?
It's very humbling to hear your kind words, and I promise to do my very best to live up to them and to be great. Chairman, you said it perfectly that our senior team makes my job much easier, and they make me look good. So any success I have is because of their successes and the success of those they oversee. So we have a staff of 141 who are doing an exceptional job, and I'm grateful.
I want to add Steve. I think I missed him when I went through the division heads, but sorry. I do want to add one thing. When we were looking for an executive director, we were looking at all these resumes and talking to all these people, and I finally looked over at Chelsea in Denver. We were at Arello, and I was like, you're the most qualified person for this position. You should apply, because, it was right there. And so I will give Doug credit for bringing you into the agency. Okay, agenda item number 30, discussion and possible action regarding future agenda items. For those visitors, that means we're getting close. Okay. Any possible agenda items in the future? Okay. Agenda item number 31, discussion and possible action to schedule future meetings. Okay. We have a meeting scheduled for May 2nd, 2022 and May 3rd, 2022. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. That is during the NAR conference. Okay. I'm sorry. May is clear.
May is clear. August is clear.
August is clear. It's November. We have a date of the 7th and 8th scheduled, correct? and that might interfere with NAR, National Association of Realtors meetings. So
So if you want the 14th and the
15th.
We can book this room for the 14th, upstairs room for the workshop for the 15th.
For the 15th.
So we can do either way.
So we can keep it the 7th and 8th, or we can move to the 14th, have the commission meeting here and have the workshop upstairs, or we can leave it the 7th and 8th like is on the schedule.
Will you be here?
I will be here.
I will.
Okay, I will be here. I think Delora might be in conflict.
7th and 8th.
Okay, leave it the 7th and 8th?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
We do have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Russell. Do I have a second from anybody? Second by everybody. We'll give it to Commissioner Woodruff. All in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 2:03.